want to see as heads in jars that you hope to have in a future season, hoping you don't go away for again, ever? Keep making this.
I mean, we have a big head in a jar guest star next 10 episodes, but I won't say who it is.
Wish list. No spoilers.
Anybody have anyone they really love who they want their head to come off?
Rephrase it that way.
That's not good.
That's a different question.
I'm like, I love Margot Robbie. That'd be really fun to have her.
Anyone else? I mean,
I'm struggling for head and jar picks, so I don't have anybody.
we have a couple next year. Actually, I'm thinking I can think of a couple. I don't want to say them. I don't know. I mean, it's just like anyone. It's just like who do you want to meet? You know. So like we had Beck on because we're like we like Beck. Let's see if he'll. But he so we had Beck said, I don't have a good answer. I guess I'd like to have Jimmy Page. I'm going to say Jimmy Page. How about Jimmy Page?
Well, that's a great answer for David, who gets to meet the stars.
That's right.
Do the voices.
None
of us do.
People I want to meet.
So it's who do we want to draw?
You're right.
Jimmy Page, if you're out there, give us a call. We have some fabulous prize for you, sir, for your question. Thank you very much for your question. Our next question over here, please.
Hi, is there a celebrity or a voice actor that you asked to be on Futurama that you were surprised they said yes?
All of them.
I mean, Sigourney Weaver, that was a big one that we were surprised by. And of course, like a bunch of the guests we've had on, she said like, well, I have my nieces and nephews told me to do it or whatever. So it's usually someone who has relatives who are in our demographic who surprise us. Larry Bird, that was a big unexpected one.
It's great to get Larry Bird.
Who else?
Amelia Clark.
Amelia Clark. But that one was not a surprise. I mean, we were talking about this last night.
Right, but you were like, do you want to do, you do?
Because we had seen an article in which she was interviewed and said she liked Futurama. So then I think Lee put in the call and said like, we're going to see if you really like Futurama. And then she ended up being Dr. Zoidberg's love of Dr. Zoidberg's life.
What about B. Arthur?
B. Arthur. There was no reason for her to do it, but she just did. Yeah, that's a really, really good example. Yes.
Awesome.
And we had John DiMaggio go in and do his love scene with her. She was so funny. That was great. Yes, B. Arthur, that's the number one answer. Claudia, you get the prize.
Woohoo! Thank you very much for your question. We have a fabulous prize. Over on my right, what is your question?
My question is, can you guys walk us through the writing process, like how you guys come up with these ideas for these titles, and how does it evolve into like this episode we just saw?
Well, it takes more than writing.
Well, let's do this. Let's do the 3 or 5 minute, the whole way through the production. All right?
Okay.
Because we have our animation team right here. So I'll do the beginning, which is the writer part, and then these guys will take over. And I will say, it's a combination of very separate skills. The writers mostly write, animators do the art, actors do the voices, musicians do the music. So it's like all this stuff has to come together in a very complicated way. But for the stories, I'm very not picky as far as where the story comes from. But often it's like, do we have a theme we want to cover, such as, is the universe a simulation? So that might be the starting point. Then we're like, well, how is it personal to somebody in our crew? Well, maybe Bender is worried because he's sort of a simulation. And then we have to, so that gives us the emotional link and how our characters are involved. And then what's the conflict or the drama? Well, it's that this universe is going to shut down. So we usually kind of start with the idea, and then how do we make it personal for our crew and have it be something that they're very emotional about. So that's kind of where the germ of the story comes from. Then we go through a bunch of drafts, and we work on it very much as a group, generate the script, record it like a radio play with our actors, and then we hand it over to these guys.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Then as a director, it lands in our lap, and it's my responsibility to all those considerations, the emotions, the themes, and then break it up among storyboard artist crew and divide it and cast it as best as we can to the crew, and who's great with action, who's great with emotion, and try and give it to them that way. At the same time, also considering all the designs and the characters that have to come into place. And then
Same thing. I'm also director. Yeah, so once the storyboard artists have done their pass on it, we go over and make sure that everything's flowing together. The screen directions are consistent throughout the whole episode, that the character designs are consistent, and then we put together an animatic so that everybody can watch the boards with the radio playing.
And it's basically just like pencil drawings
Yeah.
at that stage.
Yeah, or stylus drawings.
Yeah, and I'm Edmund and Crystal are directors. I'm the supervising director. So they'll work with their storyboard artists first, and then I'll go look at it. And you know, there's a number of things: the emotion, the humor. Oftentimes, like the episode you saw has a lot of mechanical questions. How are we going to do this? What can be 3D? You know, we can do a lot of stuff, but we don't have an unlimited ability to do everything. So there's a lot of casting of what's best, where can we best put our efforts. And it's you know, every episode has a lot of great things that you want to give all your attention to. So we, like David said, they're not pencil drawings, but we still do hand draw everything, with the sole exception of what the 3D stuff. But even then, we draw it so that the 3D artist can refer to what we drew, and you know, that shows them where everything should go.
And just to describe briefly, the handover from the writers to the animators is we have a meeting, which is me and Pete and the director, and Pete has a script, and it's very thumbed through already, and he's got all these Post-it notes for all the things we wrote that are literally impossible to animate. So it'll be like, you know, we see the universe glitches out and ends, but we see the emotion on their faces as they're turning into cubes with no emotion whatsoever. So Pete always has marked all these things, and he's like, how are we supposed to draw that? And then I always say, that's your problem. That's the official moment of handover.
This season had, for instance, the gunfight on three axes. Three axes, which I kind of knew. Okay, I know what the 3 axes are, but what the hell are you talking about? You know.
That was my favorite Zoom, because Pete just kept going, how are you supposed to do that? And you just kept giggling. And it was the funniest.
I think my question on that one was why more than how.
But it delighted you.
It came out.
It
Came out.
It did.
Yeah, it was like, the main question was, how did that person get up high on the Z-axis? So we're like, put in a bridge. You can do
Well,
it.
my main point was Hermes and the bullets are locked in these 3 axes. Hermes and Dwight can stand up and just not walk across one of those paths, but
Pete's getting
that's
mad.
a
He's
lot
getting
of-
mad at me again.
there was a lot of, you can look at that scene and you'll see the value of cheating to make it exciting and perilous, despite all the evidence that it's not.
And we also have a great post-production team. We do several edits. David does several edits with our picture editor, Paul Calder. And we have great sound design, great music. So, you know, it takes a lot of people to put it together.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great collaboration, and I want to give a shout out to our directors, because in animation, unlike other mediums, our directors are really the cinematographer, the editor, the actor, the director, and a bunch of other, and life coach, and a bunch of other things. And so there's no coverage, there's no other cameras, they're making sort of all the cinematic decisions, and it is really a very complex and hard job that they're great at. So thank you.
Thank you. And now that you know, you can make one yourself at home. Thank you very much for your question. All right, our next question will be over there.
Hey, I got a slight bit of a nerdy question. So I used to watch the audio commentary back when I was a kid, and I saw that you guys put Aaron Schrödinger in an episode, and you didn't really know who he was. Turned out to be a quantum physicist, whatever. Are there any kind of cool cameos like that? Like, who's your favorite character cameo? Like, you couldn't get a guest star, but you wrote in some strange character.
I mean, since you brought up that subject, I will say 2 of my personal favorite guest stars. We can go down the line, but I'm just going to name we had Stephen Hawking on for real.
Yeah.
So since
Rest
we're
in peace,
talking
Stephen
about,
Hawking.
since we're talking, he was on like 3 or 4 times actually. But since you brought up physicists, and that one was a super cool experience for me because he was a visiting professor at Caltech at the time, and he wanted to record like our real. He could have just emailed us a file, of his voice, but he wanted to record like our other guest stars did. So we went to his house and we set up mics, and he had this cool setup in his living room where he had mirrors on every surface, so just sitting still he could see what everybody was doing, and he recorded his lines into the mic for us. So that was super exciting. And I'll give you, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but since we're on the subject of celebrity physicists, we have Neil deGrasse Tyson coming next season. So.
Can I say that for the record, I believe David did know who Schrodinger was.
I did. I was a physics major, by the way, so I wasn't that good, but I knew who he was.
And he wasn't actually a guest star because he's not alive, right? That was an actor playing
Cameo.
Schrodinger?
Schrodinger?
Yes.
Yes.
That was an
correct.
actor.
Good job. You're correct.
We
Well, I
better.
mean, he could be alive or he could be dead. You don't know till you check,
I don't
right?
know till you open the coffin.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you,
question.
thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Long-time Futurama sleeper.
Yay.
You actually answered the initial question I was going to ask, which is like, what happens when you write, we're zooming in and out of 3 levels of simulation, and you throw it over to the animation side. But I also have listened to a lot of the commentary, and since there was a courtroom scene this season, you talked about in the commentary you'd have blue cards for things that would be repeated, like courtroom scenes and running away. I'm wondering if those survived the cancellations and if they're back on the wall in the writer's room.
Well, first of all, we worked entirely on Zoom because it was pandemic time still. So the room was virtual. But second of all, I just found them in a filing cabinet about, I think, yesterday. So it's very surreal to me that you just asked that question. I was looking for something else, and I found all of those cards you're talking about. So yeah, they do exist. So we come back to life. Blue cards.
What, you had, if there's a courtroom scene this season, you just pull out a blue card that
we
says
had
courtroom scene,
See, the
even
fa-
though it's different, right?
We're in dangerous territory because you're getting into stuff that you remember better than us at this point. But in the writer's room, we would put index cards up to generate the stories, to help us generate the stories, just keep track of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And they were all white cards, except we had blue cards for things that we used over and over again, which said, courtroom scene, runaway, that kind of thing, bite my shiny metal ass, whatever. So the things that came up again and again were on special reusable blue cards. We were very eco-conscious, so we didn't want to have to write those cards over and over again.
It's quite the time saver. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm like a longtime Futurama fan. I was as a kid, but to be fair, my parents didn't know what parental locks were.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you.
You can have say of some of the unlikely team ups on the show. Are there gonna be any other future unlikely team ups with any of the characters?
So team ups between the Planet Express characters.
Yes.
Good question.
Who can remember some unlikely
Well,
team
I
ups
think
coming
that,
up?
I think Crystal and my favorite this past
Yeah.
season is basically Bender and Zoidberg hanging out together.
I
which
would like
is
to
a
see
first
more of
and
Bender and Zoidberg.
Very entertaining.
Anyone else have a good team up episode coming up next season that you can tease for us? Trying to think of it.
Fry and Bender, that time they're
They
they're
finally
hanging out.
got to meet each other. That's nice.
You might have a Professor and Hermes
Oh,
team
that's
up
true.
coming up.
Could you call it a team up if there's
Yeah.
37 characters on screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Massive team up.
Was that yours?
Yeah.
Talk about torture. Talk about the torture moment of handing over the script. Yeah, Crystal directed an episode for next season that has single scenes, a lot of scenes with 37 characters in them.
Yeah.
That's our.
But we've had those before, but
Yeah.
they weren't all talking. And I think you also tortured the sound editor with that.
Yeah, Paul was
That was
Paul
yeah,
was not happy.
it was horrible. And,
Just wait, you'll see.
I guess the Professor and Hermes counts, but they teamed up once before in one. There was that big flashback episode. So,
I think we feel like they've all teamed up so much that there's no possible new ones. But then when Bender and Zoidberg were hanging out, we were like, "Wow, this is incredible. We've never. How has this not happened?"
Well, and Bender meets a new relative next season, so that's kind of a team.
yes, and that's another good guest star, but I won't tip it right now. Bender has a guest star when he visits his homeland in Mexico. So.
Thank you very much for your question. What's nice is I think we have Fry and Leela coming up, and we are running short on time. Let's hear from Fry first.
So I just came from the Professor, and I saw a team up that you're talking about. Some lady named Bean and Lucy and some devil-looking like thing. They look pretty cool. But anyways, so who? Oh, question. Alienese. You have that. I love it's hidden all over the place. Is there a fight for like what it says, or is like there a who gets to like pick what is the secret message that goes out this week, or like?
I mean, usually it's in the script. Generally, it is written in. It's not random. Often, it's a secret message that's just something the aliens don't want the humans to understand. So, it'll in the butcher shop, it'll say human sirloin, or whatever. But just a related story is we had 2 alien languages. We haven't been using the second one as much now, but there's one that was fairly easy to decode and was kind of decoded while the pilot was running the first time. But there's another one that's harder to decode, and you kind of need a computer to do it, and we use that one occasionally. And we had at that time, we had a computer scientist on our staff of scientists, and so he was in charge of it, Jeff Westbrook, and we used it a few times, and then on one of them he made a mistake, so it couldn't be decoded to anything that made sense, and it was so it was so infuriating to the fans. We were like, let's use the one we ourselves understand more. So we try to keep it more simple now.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you very much, Leela. Yes.
Hi. I was wondering what was the hardest part about rebooting it in 2023?
Why don't you guys bring that? We brought back a bunch of the same writers, and we brought back our whole cast, so that wasn't quite as hard as it sounds. But how about from your point of view?
Go ahead. It was really nice to go back to Futurama. It feels like a well-oiled machine. The challenging part as a director is bringing new people on who have never worked on the show before. And so you just have to everyone comes in with different skills, and they come from different shows they've worked on, and they have different habits or filmmaking skills, and then you just have to mold everyone and get everyone steered into the Futurama filmmaking style. And that's our biggest challenge. But that happens sort of every season. But it wasn't that hard. I think it was so much fun that it didn't seem hard at all.
I mean, we have been working consistently on other stuff, so we're all still in practice. And I will add, we hire a lot of young artists who love drawing manga and anime. And that's great, but it's like, that's not what this show is, so I need you to, watch some Simpsons, watch some Futuramas, and draw this.
Maybe one of the hardest things for me is that we're working with a lot of people now who are like, work, for the studios and the various networks and places that we work. Like, I grew up watching that show. I'm like, oh.
So
and now you're an adult now, and you're my boss. Yeah. But it's great to be back. No, it's pretty amazing. Like David said, it was all the original animators, writers, the actors. We've added some new people on the animation side, new people on the writing staff. But all the key creative people are back.
And there is things surreal or comforting about this show where, because this has happened to us a bunch of times, although this was a long one where we go away and come back, I'm kind of used to it now. And seriously, I was talking to our recording engineer, Carlos, where we record with, and I hadn't seen him in maybe 5 years, whatever, but he walked in and we're like, okay, action. And, it's just, I honestly, same thing with the actors and these guys. It feels very much like we were just doing it last week. So I don't know. I forget everything else. I forget very rapidly, but just doing this show, it feels like we've never really stopped. It feels natural.
So it looks like we may only have time for one, possibly two more questions. I apologize. So yes, next please.
Thank you. So over 11 seasons now, we've seen Fry and Leela's relationship develop, and it ended in a beautiful scene where they spent their whole lives together. I'm interested to know whether or not the future seasons and the episodes that are going to come up are going to anecdotally reference back to that time they spent together, and whether or not you'll ever have any sort of callback scenes that directly reference that time.
Have you watched the new 10 episodes that just came out?
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Well-
seems they did progress a little, and
I mean,
there's some
again, I'm not
future.
sure. It will be much referenced in our next final episode ever, which is episode 10 of next year. So yes, very much so it will be referenced. It's a hard yes.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have time for one more.
Oh, wow.
Make
Well,
it a
I'm
good
boned.
one.
I'm kidding. So when the show went off the last time and between now and every year, did you guys were working on any ideas that you wanted to incorporate in that time span?
I mean, for myself, I actually was thinking about this episode that you just saw, and I had it in my mind that this would be the episode we returned with as the first episode. And then when we actually started pitching out episodes and we were thinking about it more, it felt more like to be the last one of the first set of 10 because it had that good, slow down moment at the end, which is also kind of very parallel to how we ended the last time around with the universe frozen. And also it actually felt right to make this the 10th one. But this is, for me, this is the episode I was thinking about for a long time. Anybody else?
I was just thinking about doing more Futuramas, and I'm glad we are.
Yeah.
So we can't take any more questions. However, I do see we have a Leela in the background. I'd like to hear from Leela real quick, and also, everyone don't be too alarmed, but Lur, ruler of Omicron Perseus. Be careful from Lur. Leela, yes, could you say hello, please?
Hello, I have a package. This is actually addressed to Lur. I'll give it to him later. I'm so curious. The original couple of seasons of Futurama, there's like really such an arc over them, and you find out all this stuff about Fry. You find out how he ended up, why he ended up there, and why he's needed there. You really have an arc. So I'm just curious, have you ever thought of doing any other arcs like that? The way that one came together with little bits of evidence here and there until you finally kind of got the whole picture. Have you ever thought of doing more of that?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a little bit now this year with Kif and Amy, as came up with their kids. And often these things, I can't claim we thought of all this stuff before the show came on the air and we planned it in advance. Things sort of build on things that we liked from the earlier season. So, we learn about Fry's brother, and then we learn more about his family and his mom, and so it gradually fills in. Wow, the lights are going off in a scary fashion here. So, I think the kids are a good avenue. Nibbler, we heard some more from Nibbler this year, although it didn't shed a lot of light on him other than his parasites that he had. But yes, I hope we are able to keep delivering on those because those are usually good emotional episodes.
We have an episode next season that sort of is a Fry-related.
That's right. We have,
very
it's
sweet.
more building on your same epic story you're talking about, however. But yeah, there's a really nice one. That's the 37 characters one we were talking about earlier. So.
And we appreciate all your questions, and I know we brought a little surprise for you today.
Yeah, so thank you all for coming. We brought some clips from next season that sort of the world premiere and only premiere for quite a while.
No one has ever seen these before?
Not me.
Not even the directors who directed them?
No, we haven't.
All right, you are the first to see them. Tell the directors what it looks like after you see it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
They're awesome.